My name is Lawrence Finn. I am a professional practicing artist. That's a story of seduction, betrayal, trysts, adventures, abuse, and art. But it's nothing to do with this story. This story only concerns me in as far as it is the culmination of over a decade's research. I wanted my grandmother to know who her brother was. This story is my success. It's about a man who exists in sparse documents, a shipping manifest, an electoral roll, census papers, a regimental diary, and a solitary photo on a closed file. My grandmother went by the name of Olive, but her name was Maud Olive Millard, and that's odd because Millard certainly wasn't her father, but that's another story. This story isn't about her mother, Olive Elizabeth Smith, taking on her cousin's name of Liza to steal her identity and obtain a UK pension. We don't talk about that. Nor is the story about the man she stole to Canada, or the woman left behind to bring up their daughters and who described Liza as one of those women who wore trousers, had a pilot's license, and money. This story is not about Liza losing her parents to a typhoid epidemic when she was 2 years old, or how she broke many hearts. They are other stories for other days. Olive was in a post office in Calgary, Canada with her mother Liza. Liza received a letter, read it, and turned pale white before taking Olive's hands in hers and saying, "Oh dear, your brother's died. You didn't know you had a brother, but you do, and now he's dead." That night, my grandmother saw that letter on the kitchen table and read it to herself, committing his name to her memory. His name is Lovell, Glendower, Tresham, and the letter on the table was from the Australian Army, and that is what this story is about. Lovell was born 14 years before my grandmother in 1906 to an unknown father. His grandparents, James and Elizabeth Smith of Cinderford, Westbury-on-Severn, Gloucestershire, raised him. Liza disappeared from his story between 1906 and 1918, and when she emerges in 1918, it is to the newspaper headline, "Alleged Attempted Wife Murder." But that's another story. In 1922, Lovell took passage to Australia on the Hobson's Bay. The unassisted immigrant passenger list simply mentions a Lovell Smith butcher who got on in Manchester and got off in Sydney, Australia. For reasons unknown, sometime between 1922 and 1936, Lovell changed his surname to Tresham. The electoral rolls in the 1930s show Lovell as a cellarman down on the Gong and as an engineer's chainman in Queensland. He returned to the Gong, purchasing land. Lot 8, Section 20, of Deposited Plan 16083. The block has a small fibro cottage on it nowadays, built by the person who obtained the property from the public trustee after Lovell's death. Lovell worked for Sydney Water when he signed up for war in June of 1940. By September, he had married Stella Burton, a woman who, like him, had gotten on a boat in the UK and gotten off in Sydney. The ship Lovell to Singapore. The paperwork for the 212th Royal Australian Engineers mentions him every now and then, while the official war diary mentions fortifications, digging, shooting, being shot at, bombers and casualties, blowing up bridges and blocking roads in Malaya and running back to Singapore under fire. Then Singapore fell and Lovell was interned with 136,000 other men. In April, they officially listed him missing in action. By May, they found him again, and they interned him in Changi and then sent him to the Thai end of the Burma Railway, where he did what only some people can do in squalor, misery, disease, and brutal servitude. He survived. In September of 1944, they sent him back to Changi and then on to Japan. The Japanese didn't mark prisoner of war or Red Cross ships. They placed them in convoys with legitimate war targets. The seas at that time were thick with US submarine packs. He sailed in the Rakua Maru, which was sunk. He never met his sister. He never saw his wife or mother again. He's remembered by a plaque on a wall in the memorial in Canberra. His military service was a mismanaged farce. His death a waste. His life cut short. Stella never remarried. Upon her death, she left everything to her next-door neighbour, Li Hua. Her grave marker simply states, "In loving memory of my dear friend Stella Tresham, died the 7th of February 1963. Remembered by George, who also paid for the headstone which sits in disrepair nowadays, but that's another story."